Hi, my name is Quinn Pink, and today we're going to be talking about the lack of motivation students have today. This is an issue that means a lot to me as I'm going to be a teacher sometime in the near future, and on top of that, motivation is something I struggled with growing up through the schooling system. The root of the issue is that students just aren't getting the most out of their education in the way that the system is set up currently. Students are becoming disengaged from school, not thriving academically, and frankly just aren't even trying. To put it bluntly, it's because we're not allowing them to enjoy learning. We choke them out with all kinds of mandatory classes that none of them want to take, all the while not allowing them to choose a path for themselves until they're paying to go to school, in college. This is a really big issue because students are almost forced to make an impulse choice as to which path they want to follow upon entering college. Without having given them any experience in any fields aside from the standard math, science, history, English, we're just setting them up for failure. We're not allowing for them to venture down paths of their own choosing early enough, and because of this, they lose motivation. Learning becomes monotonous, and it's just not fun. If it's not a rash decision, they're defaulting into an undeclared major, which isn't as good a thing as it sounds or it's been preached about. By registering undeclared, sure, you're experiencing all kinds of things to give yourself a better idea of what you might want to be doing, uh, but this is just something that would be better suited for high school when you're once again not paying for classes. On top of that, giving essentially nothing in particular is an option just prolongs the indecisiveness, which isn't what we want. We see students all the time default into random fields, all because they view it as the logical next step in their education, rather than something they're actually interested in. This isn't ideal, as lots of different jobs don't actually require a degree, and if you find out that the job you've thought you wanted doesn't require a degree after doing 4 years of college and paying for that, it sets you back financially, it sets you back as far as time goes, and it's just tough to get going again. Students need to be able to explore starting in high school, and simply waiting until college just should no longer be an option. So what's the solution? We need to start by drawing back on some of the mandatory classes we put kids through today, as I mentioned. Math courses up until the point you graduate from high school, for instance, just aren't really necessary. A lot of the things you learn in math, even early on in high school, you don't use in everyday life, or even after high school at all. Career dependent, of course. If you're doing something with math, you might be using them. This would be a good opportunity to splice in some classes of the students' choosing in those later years where you would cut out math a little bit. We must provide them with opportunities to make decisions for themselves and to start choosing their own paths earlier on in college, as I mentioned. By forcing them through the same kinds of courses when uninterested, learning as a whole becomes associated with those boring classes, and the will to learn is just lost almost entirely. Another instance, there's no real need for 4 years of history, in my opinion. Unless, of course, that's something that interests you. 2 years would be very much so sufficient. Enough to teach that, we can't let history repeat itself and the issues of the past should not come back up again. This would allow students to determine whether history is something that interests them or not, and it would also give them 2 more years to replace where history would be the classes you would be taking to classes that are more suited towards the individual. English is one group of class that I wouldn't cut out, as I believe that English skills will benefit you regardless of what field you're going into, whether they be written English or verbal. Um, Aside from that, we could start to construct this whole roster of courses that could be offered, or different fields that you can follow, with real opportunities to learn. That's one of the big pieces. For instance, those who want to become teachers could shadow at the elementary and middle school levels for a period a day, as well as take classes catered towards education majors, such as like teaching theory. I know in my school there was always an abundance of art classrooms that just weren't in use throughout the day during certain periods. These could be used, for instance, as woodshop rooms, as they were like catered towards helping out big projects and being able to suit those kind of things. They could be used for individuals that are looking to do something with construction or maintenance or woodworking. Like, the resources are all currently there. It's just a matter of using them efficiently and putting them to use in a way that they will benefit the students. Major changes are another big point I touched on in my essay, like major in college. I mentioned that around 80% of students will change course from the one that they entered college believing they would be following. And by starting the system early, a system where a student can dictate their own path, students will have at least 2 years to tinker around and learn what they like and what they don't like before making a decision in college. This kind of kills two birds with one stone, as you eliminate the major changes for the most part, which isn't the primary focus but a good outcome, and you also rebuild that motivation and the love for learning.